Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. For our first game of this week's showcase, I need to make sure I get this title just right. This is KOTOMASHO. I can't believe this neat guy turned into a magical girl. The footage you're seeing is taken from the demo of the first chapter of the game. This was played in 2022 and may not represent the current version of the game or of the demo. In this one, we play as a guy who spends all his time playing virtual reality games when he comes across a magical crystal given by a family member that teleports him to a strange world and also turns him into a magical girl. And in order to save the world, they must go into various dungeons, beat up baddies, and gain upgrades, powers, and more. The game itself combines kind of the Zelda style of dungeon crawling, finding equipment, and so on, with a RPG progression system, as you'll be able to improve your character, find different kinds of shot styles, and more, and do your best to explore procedurally or mostly procedurally generated levels. How this works is that the dungeons are built on kind of randomly chosen preset rooms. So you'll need to explore, get to the end of the floor, move on to the next one, which in turn will get you to the next floor where there'll be more stuff, and then there's set rooms in the form of boss fights, unlocking new items, and so on and so forth. Now, from what we play in the demo, there seems to be a good foundation here, but we did have some issues with the general balance. Because your different shot types are kind of chosen at random, it also has a huge impact on how easy it is for you to fight certain enemies or certain rooms. Because the rooms themselves are randomly chosen, it also adds civility to the game as well. That if you die before you reach a checkpoint, you're kicked all the way back at the start, which means you now must go through another kind of randomly chosen set of rooms. But when that's combined with the different shot types, and some shot types obviously being better or worse than others, it does make the difficulty feel a little bit off, especially for a game that is trying to position itself as more like of a Zelda-like or Zelda style. Now, with that said, I do think there is some potential here. I don't know where they're going to go with the demo or what the plans are. When we were checking this one out, there were plans, or I think they were on Kickstarter. I don't know how well that succeeded or they decided to do a remake of it. But this one does have some potential, and again, with the first chapter being free, there is no excuse to check this out if you're looking for a kind of Zelda roguelite experience. And now we turn to something very different with a Bavarian Tale. This is a kind of murder mystery game taking place in the 1800s in Bavaria. A murder has happened into a quiet village, and we have arrived in order to solve it, get into fights, stealth, and eat lots and lots of pretzels along the way. The game itself is a mix of different genres. The heart of this is in the kind of murder mystery detective angle. There are multiple routes for you to explore, choices for how you deal with everyone, and then there's going to be a mix of other aspects, stealth, fighting, adventure, and so on. Now, the main thing about A Bavarian Tale is that when we played it on stream, it was noticeably janky in spots. The onboarding at the beginning was a bit rough, and it did feel like one of those games that you're going to have to look kind of like the innate jankiness of it if you're going to enjoy it. But you can tell there was definitely some passion put into this one. There's certainly a lot here in terms of the multiple endings, multiple strategies, how the story can play out, etc. So if you don't mind enjoying lots and lots of pretzels to activate your detective vision, and a good old murder mystery with a touch of jank here and there, then this one's at least worth a check. We move to another very original game with Ctrl Alt Ego. The footage you're seeing is taken from the end of 2022, And the game has been updated since then, and I don't know if what you see will represent the current version of it. But this, my friends, is a very much in the immersive sim style. We are trapped as a disembodied entity on a mysterious space station, and robots are going to try and murder us, but we do have one very handy feature. We're a disembodied entity on a space station, we're immortal, and we have the power to control, again, title pun intended, any robotic thing that is around. It is measured by our ego in the bottom right, and every different robot has its own unique way of moving around, its own way of interacting, etc., etc. And this is one of those games where you're going to be doing a whole lot of thinking with your exploration, as you'll need to figure out just what it is you're trying to achieve and all the myriad of ways to do it. And this one is definitely on the advanced side. Now, while you can certainly be killed in a robotic body, that does not mean that the game is over, as you'll be able to find ways of upgrading yourself, bringing new robots in this world, and this is clearly one of those games that we did not even get to see a fraction of it when we played it on stream. And even though this is only the demo, there is certainly a lot to this one. And if you did somehow miss the game's release, I have no idea what this one is, this is definitely an easy recommendation if you love anything in the immersive sim style. And now up is Archtower. This is another demo that we checked out, and what you see may not represent the current version of it. This is a third-person ARPG roguelite. Everyone is trying to climb a mysterious tower full of monsters, treasure, and more, for, of course, fame, fortune, and loot. And we are going to have to explore this place one floor at a time. The game itself is built on kind of roguelite progression, as you'll take the resources that you find here to upgrade your kind of campsite outside of the tower to unlock additional classes, additional perks, all that good stuff. Every floor is procedurally generated, and the game is played in kind of like this third person, very wide kind of camera system, and you're going to need to do a lot of moving, jumping, and attacking if you want to try and stay one step ahead of the enemies. Win, lose, or draw, you'll be sent back to the bottom of the tower, where you'll be able to invest in more upgrades and give yourself a better chance of winning. For this one, when we played this on stream, it was pretty solid as an action RPG goes. We didn't get to see too much of the meta progression in this one, simply by the fact that we were playing a demo, but the action gameplay did feel very solid. And if you are looking for some ARPGs with your roguelite, or your roguelite with some ARPGing, then give this one a check. For the last game of this week's showcase, and officially the last bit of footage I have from 2022, this is Sail Away, an open world kind of sailing RPG. After we have been left stranded in the wide ocean, we get ourselves a new boat, and we are now out to sail the seas looking for adventure, loot, and plunder, if you so choose. Now, when we played the demo to it, I was expecting this to be more of kind of like a roguelike, almost like a FTL on the water style game. But the finished version of this is definitely more CRPG, but with an emphasis on sailing, as opposed to land-based combat. The sailing physics rely a lot on kind of what we saw from Wind Waker, in that you'll have to match your sails to the winds and to the kind of waves going around as you try to avoid enemy fire and get shots off on your own. Eventually you'll be able to acquire additional ships. There are multiple challenges to go for, side quests aplenty, and upgrades as well. But this is certainly not a short affair of a game, as you'll explore many different kinds of ocean areas and trying to complete your major objectives in the game. Now, the sailing for me can be a little bit on the clunky side. Again, this is more about kind of navigating the wind and where your sails are going. You'll have those situations where you'll just not quite be able to get everything aligned. You'll move extra slow. But there is certainly a lot of charm to this game, despite me running into lots and lots of rocks and other landmarks around. So if you're looking for an RPG that is more about sailing and shooting rather than swords and sorcery, then this is definitely one worth checking out. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where you examine the art and science of games.